everyone, I'm Stacey Tabman, founder and CEO of Rice Collaborative. Welcome to On the Rice TV, where we feature incredible women and their story. In today's episode, I'm excited for you to hear from a friend of mine who's taken her passion for ice cream and created a whole business around it.
Tamara Keefe is founder and CEO of Clementine's Naughty and Nice Creamery, one of only 14 micro-creameries in the country. Her ice cream has received countless awards and is beloved by millions, including Oprah, who just named it her exclusive O-List as the sexiest ice cream alive. She is also a Goldman Sachs Small Business Program alum, a 2019 Tory Burch Fellow, and was recently featured in Forbes magazine for her sweet success. Prior to opening her ice cream empire, Tamara worked in corporate America for more than 20 years with global brands like Coke, Nestle, Kraft, and Mars, focused on strategy, brand management, consumer insight, and innovation.
Hi, Tamara. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to see you. It's been way too long.
It has been too long.
I was thinking about this preparing. I think the last time we saw each other was in October of 2018.
I know. Crazy.
It was great to speak with you on that panel at the
That was fun.
Conference.
Yes, it was.
It was such an honor because you and Jennifer Labatt from Cotton Baby were two women I've looked up to and admired for years. So to be on the panel on the stage with you.
It was really fun.
It was a lot of fun. Now, our show is all about inspiring young people to dream and achieve big. That's our why at Rice Collaborative. And and we even have a mentor program connecting high school girls to our members. And so I always love starting, thank you. I always love starting the conversation, taking you back to your good old high school days.
Oh boy.
Or maybe not so good old days.
Oh, they were really fun.
Yeah. So I like to start the conversation thinking about, your job in high school or what you thought you wanted to be when you grew up. The good old, the great question that we all get asked.
I wanted to get out of high school as fast as I could to get to work. I wanted to make money.
I think so many high schoolers have this desire, like, when is this going to end? I don't know about the getting the job part, because I think there's it's a common feeling of wanting it to end.
No, I was not of that mindset to go to college right away.
Yeah.
I wanted to go out and make something of myself and earn a living and make money and be an adult. I was definitely in a rush to grow up.
Where do you think that came from?
I'm not sure.
But it's from a very early age, something you felt.
Yes. I mean, I've been working jobs since I was in the third grade.
So what was your first job, your third grade job?
My third grade job, I put the stickers on, I worked for a Mary Kay lady.
Okay.
And I would put stickers on every box of lipstick and cosmetics that she sold. So I would go after school and sit in her living room on the floor and put stickers on the Mary Kay boxes.
Did she give you free makeup as part of your payment?
I think I probably did get some free makeup, but I earned like $3 an hour and I was rich. Or
That's
so
awesome.
I thought.
Well, of course. Little did you know.
Little did I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think that's interesting. And one of the things I love about your story is that so many women I talk to these days, when they're younger, really wanted to climb the corporate ladder, get the big jobs, get the raises and all the accolades. And then they get there and they look around and it's like, what is this? This is not what I expected. And I know you experienced a little something like that. I'd love for you to share that journey.
Sure. I think I worked for so long and I was not a traditional age student by any means. I didn't go to college or, I didn't start my bachelor's till I was 25 and then my MBA and then my other master's. And so I worked. I was building my career. I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I was in the whole dot-com boom. Yes. And so I kind of grew my career out of that, which was an amazing time to grow up and to learn on other people's dimes,
of course.
Especially. And then I just worked my way up and got in, before I knew it, I had 25 years in corporate America. I was running a $70 million business.
Wow.
And I was miserable.
Yeah.
I really looked around and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm 38 years old and I have no husband and no family. I never see my friends, but I have a big bank account, right? That felt good. But yeah, it was just ended up being very empty. And I realized, yes, I was making a lot of money, or what was for me a lot of money.
Sure.
But I was really making other people rich.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
Well, I was really good at what I did.
Yeah.
Maybe I got a big bonus, but the CEO, the CMO, they were getting $1 million bonuses, right?
Yeah.
I might got, a $50,000 bonus or a $100,000 bonus.
Right.
But that paled in comparison to what I was doing for them.
Sure.
And so you get to a certain point and you're like, I can do this. I could go do this on my own, or I could do their job. It was time for a change.
And it's interesting how when you reach a certain level and you're miserable, we think we're going to reach this level of success and feel so complete and whole, and then it's very unfulfilling at times.
Well, I think when you're an overachiever, as I always have been, and as
relate,
you are,
right?
yes, right? There's never a point where you're really satisfied. That's really hard to get to. And so every new thing that you accomplish and every level that you get to, you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? That's a blessing and a curse, right?
Yes. So often it is.
So often.
So you reach this pinnacle of success, you're miserable and you're burnt out, and so how did Clementines all come to be?
You know, I had an epiphany with some girlfriends one weekend at a girls' weekend away.
Those girls' weekends are
That's
always a lifesaver.
So needed. And I kind of opened the kimono with my girlfriends and kind of broke down and was sharing with them how I was feeling. And my one girlfriend turns to me and she goes, quit. I'm like, what?
You're like, this is not who I am.
You don't quit corporate, not at the level that I was,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And I kind of was, crying, and I asked my other girlfriend, I said, well, what would I do?
Right.
And she looked at me and she kind of laughed and she was like, you're always complaining St. Louis doesn't have great ice cream.
Yeah, that
right?
is, yeah.
You're always complaining our neighborhood doesn't have an ice cream shop to walk to. Why don't you open an ice cream company? And ice cream, by the way, has always been my hobby and my passion since I was a child.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're so happy when you're making ice cream, why don't you go do that? And so literally that weekend we wrote my business plan, put together my financials and my deck, and I resigned 2 weeks later.
It must be nice to have smart friends.
Yes, it is. Surround yourself, birds of a feather.
Yes, and we will talk about that later.
Sure.
That's interesting that was a passion of yours as a child. I think young people so often get this message of find your passion, right? And that's an awesome thing to say to young people, but also quite daunting. And I imagine if you were 17 or 18 or however old you were making ice cream, if someone said, pursue your passion, it might have been a little paralyzing at that time.
Sure, right? Because it kind of flies in the face of like, go make ice cream and be an ice cream chef, right?
Right.
I don't want to work in a restaurant, right? That
Right.
wasn't my thing.
Right.
But I think because I grew up with my family making ice cream, it became my hobby and my passion kind of as I grew up. And I learned, I have this endless need for learning. I'm a lifelong learner.
Yes, many entrepreneurs are.
Yes,
You're never done learning.
And so for me, ice cream was something that I could continue to learn about. And
Yeah.
as I grew up and I went from tech to the food industry. And so, I got to learn more about the science of food and making ice cream. And so it was kind of my career supported my additional learnings for my personal hobby and passion too.
So although you were leaving this big corporate job and it felt like this big leap, it wasn't so random.
No, it wasn't so random, and it was a big leap because I was starting my own company, which
Sure.
I had never done before. But it was a space I was familiar with. It was the food industry, right? So I understood food safety and HACCP and traceability, and how what it is to make a food product from beginning to end, and not just make it safely and market it and brand it. That's my space I was in. So it was a very natural progression almost, if I look in hindsight.
Sure. So it sounds like at this girls' weekend, you guys really mapped out quite a bit, but from idea to execution, it's a lot more than that. So take me through, you had the idea in 2014. How did you get it up and running? You alluded to some of your background, how it played out, but I'd love to hear what happened after the girls' weekend.
Well, once I resigned and I was on it full time, right? First of all, I had to figure out how to fund it. Right. And so
the challenging part.
And I had quite a bit in savings. And then, as you know, 6 months in, I ran out of money.
Right.
Right.
And I appreciate that you share that, because so often we look at successes like you and it's like, and here I am, overnight success.
And no, it wasn't overnight, that's for sure. But I did decide to take the biggest bet of my life and bet on myself. And I cashed out my 401k to continue to fund the start of my company.
Wow.
Yes, that was very
Did that keep you up
nerve-wracking.
at night?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I woke up with fear every morning, and fear is an amazing driver.
It can be. I think it can do both, right? I think for some people it can propel you and motivate you, and I think there are times where it can paralyze you. When I first started, me and
Sure.
Netflix became best friends due to fear. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think so. But for me, I think it was very actually to this day, I wake up and the first thing I think about is, oh my God, I can't fail.
And so for you, that's very motivating.
Yes, for me, it has been very motivating because I have nothing else. So,
Well, there we go.
We're
Even
gonna
after
make
all
this.
these years and you've reached such a level of success, you still wake up with that same fear.
I still wake up with that same
That's
fear.
interesting. Mine ebbs and flows. Like I'm in this state of terror for months and months, and then I reach this point where I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then I go back to the terror.
Well, it's not just me now.
Oh,
right?
good point.
I have 62 employees that rely on us being successful.
Yeah.
And so I cannot make any mistakes because I'm supporting all these people.
Sure.
Right.
Well, how do you keep going? Because I think for some people, fear can be really paralyzing. It doesn't sound like it is for you, but in those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to ever pull this off?
I'm amazing at executing.
Got it.
I execute. I may course correct, but I don't take too much time. I never am in paralysis analysis. I make a decision and I go. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I go. And that has served me so well in those moments where I'm like, just go.
I think that's a good point because I've heard a lot of women say, like, I don't want to make a mistake or, I'm going to analyze it all.
You're going to make so many mistakes.
Exactly.
I've made so many. I continue to make so many mistakes, right?
Right.
That's part of the journey, right?
Right.
But that's how we learn. If we're not making mistakes, we're not learning.
Well, and I appreciate that you say it's just about taking action. It's less about taking the right action, but taking action. I think that's a great message for people to hear.
Because I think a lot of people in this world, there are a lot more intelligent people. There's a lot more beautiful people. There's a lot more people that have a lot more money, right?
Yes.
There's always people that have more. And we all know that person, right, who we think is so smart but never does anything.
Yeah. Or has the best idea.
The best idea, but they don't do anything with it.
Sure.
And I feel part of my success really has been that I know how to execute. And execute well and fast and swift and often and course correct and learn and go.
Nice. And so that's what you did. You had this idea, but you ran out of money, you said.
I ran out of money, so I cashed out my 401k,
Okay.
which took a little bit of time. But then I was funded again.
Okay.
And I had enough money to get me going. And, so the first thing I did, I hired consultants and I went to some other female entrepreneurs who had small food-related businesses, and they helped me a lot.
I think
SD Cruz Grow was amazing to me.
Yeah. I think that's a great message because I think so often when we start out, we're fearful to ask for help because we don't want to look like an idiot. But what I've found is that people will come out of the woodwork. If you're willing to ask for help, they're excited and want to help you.
Yes. I think especially, we're super collaborative.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And so we want to help each other. And so that was really helpful for me in the beginning to go to people who had more experience than I did to kind of get me going. And then once I was going, thankfully I came from the food industry, so I knew how to build a first-class FDA certified kitchen, right? I understood to put all my food safety regulations, put all that stuff into place.
Sure.
And that was from my own experience in my career, that most people who would say, oh, I'm going to go start an ice cream company would have no experience and wouldn't know how to do.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. So then I built the ice cream kitchen, then I was building the brand, and then I was building the PR. And then
all the buzz.
Right, all the buzz and like implementing the marketing plan. So I was very methodical in what I did, and I had a really strong marketing plan from the beginning on exactly what I was going to do and how I was going to do it and in the time frame. And I pretty much stuck to the time frame for my plan. The one thing I always say is it takes twice as long and twice as much.
Yes, it does. I got great advice that there's no unachievable goals, just unachievable timelines.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So from there, it was just about getting it done. I knew what I needed to do. I put every day I got up and I said, I have to do 5 productive things today. And once
do you still do that?
I still do that.
So every day you think about 5 productive things you have to do. Ooh, I like
think
that.
about 5 productive things the night before. So I take 10 minutes and I kind of sit at the edge of my bed and I think about tomorrow and I looked at my calendar and I see what I have to do and then I come up with 5 productive things that I can get done the next day.
Ooh, I'm definitely stealing that. And so you got it up and running. And talk about marketing plan and buzz. I read that you had lines at the doors, like
We
hours
did.
and hours
We
of people
did.
trying to get to your ice cream.
Yes, yes. BuzzFeed even did an article that we were the most highly anticipated opening of 2015 in St. Louis.
Yeah, I think creating the buzz is really such an important aspect of business that people often overlook. It's not just about having the best product, which you do.
Thank you. I agree.
But it's about creating the buzz and the momentum and the social proof. I think without it, no matter what you're doing, whether it's corporate or startup, I think it's something often overlooked.
Yeah, and again, I was very strategic in getting the PR, getting the word out in the street, selling to high-end and influential restaurants in St. Louis where I'd get my name on the menu so people would see it and start talking about me, right? So I did that, and then we kind of did the whole social media. I did like pint delivery around St. Louis, and that spread like wildfire. So everyone was talking about me before I opened.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that's awesome.
And so I had revenue coming in from my wholesale and catering business. I had PR and buzz, and then by the time I got the store open, we had 4 and 5 hour lines that never end. They still don't in all of our stores.
Which created, I'm sure, a whole different, bottle of challenges.
Of course. But
Absolutely. So it sounds like you had a lot of success right out of the gate, and I think that's great. And, I think so often entrepreneurship is glamorized, right? I had this love-hate with Shark Tank. I think it's made entrepreneurship very mainstream and motivated a lot of people to start companies.
And they don't know how hard it is.
Right? The reality of entrepreneurship isn't nearly as glamorous or pretty. It's slugging through and can be quite painful at times. So we just shared some of like the wonderful, easy, successful parts. I'm curious how that has been for you, or speaking to that idea of it's not always so glamorous.
I think I survived on 3 hours of sleep my first 2 years.
Really?
Yep.
Just speak from working from morning to...
Yeah, I'd get up, I'd go to the kitchen at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd start making all the ice cream and then making the bases, and then I'd just start doing deliveries at 10 in the morning, and then like my day would go on, and then I'd go calling customers, and then when the shop's open, then I'd be at the shop by 11 to get it open.
Sure.
And so I did everything in the beginning.
Which you really have to. And often with entrepreneurship, it creates this burnout culture. And, I have such this push-pull of I don't think that's healthy, obviously.
Well, and it's not.
Or sustainable.
And to my detriment, lifting 50-gallon buckets of dairy all day long my first couple years, like I herniated 2 discs in my back.
Seriously?
So I have back problems now for the rest of my life because I did it all myself in the beginning, which I don't recommend everybody do.
Right, but how do you get things off the ground without it?
You do everything.
You do.
Right? The endless nights and people talk about eating top ramen in college. Well, thankfully I had a lot of friends and my ice cream was in restaurants because I just go call on my restaurant customers around family dinner time, right? Mm-hmm. And so they would always feed me.
Sure.
So there were some really tight couple of years that, people don't see that.
No, they don't.
Right? They think you have a business and you're so successful and they think you have all this money and they don't realize that you don't and you
rarely even pay yourself.
Oh, I didn't pay myself for 3 years.
Right. Yeah. I know that feeling well.
Right. And so I sold my house, I downsized, I lived in a tiny place. Like I had paid everything off for a couple of years, thankfully.
Smart.
But I, only in the past year or two have I started actually feel the benefits of my company and started paying myself in the past couple of years.
Yeah, and that's tough to sustain all of those years because you started in 2014, 15,
Yep.
and here we are, 2020, crazy to say out loud.
Yes.
How do you sustain that? And how do you keep going in those dark days?
I have fewer and fewer dark days.
That's good.
Right? Because
but early on, when you were having those dark days and it was feeling like, how am I ever going to pull this off?
I think there was enough of the amazing things happening during the dark days too that helped me get through that. There were enough people really cheering me on.
That's awesome.
And so excited for what I was doing. And I was excited for what I was doing. And I was, changing people's lives. And I was making this incredible product that, so there was the benefit and then it was happening at the same time. And so that made it a lot more tolerable.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about entrepreneurship, that it's more about and than or. This idea of it's not like success or failure, or this is a strength or a weakness. You know, I think there's so many things when you're an entrepreneur that are both a strength and a shadow. Right?
Sure.
Like I'm a super doer. It sounds like you are too. And that's what made us
Absolutely.
successful in our early days. But sometimes it's becoming a hindrance too. I'm curious if you have any strengths and shadows that you're willing to share.
You know, I'm pretty relentless, right? Growing up in corporate America and making it as a woman, you become pretty hard driving and relentless to get to the level that that I did, for good or for bad, right? And so that has been my strength, right? Because I never stop. Like I am always going, right? I am always building, I am growing, I am thinking, I am acting, I am doing.
Doing your 5 for the day.
Doing my 5 for the day. But that's hard with other people around me, right?
Staff may not be as relentless.
Well, no, I'm in a different kind of business. I'm in the hospitality business.
Sure.
I'm no longer in corporate America. I have a whole different workforce, right? I managed MBAs for 25 years, and my workforce is totally different now. So that hard driving, I have had to learn, right, to change some of that. And
that's not
thankfully,
easy.
It's not, you know, but I'm proud to say I haven't made anyone cry in 3 years.
That's awesome.
Yes. So speaking of strength and shadow, like that has been really hard for me. Probably the hardest thing about starting my business.
Yeah.
And that has everything to do with me and no one else.
Yeah, I struggle with that too.
Because what made me successful there doesn't make me successful here.
Right. Yeah. And when you grow your business, people are the number one thing, and the heart is such a blessing and a curse. I'm learning those skills as well.
And thankfully, I'm getting a lot better.
Good. Well, I can aspire to be like you.
Yeah, well,
I think one of the things that keeps me going is community. And I've read in your story that community is a lot about what you do and why you started this. I would love for you to share your story about how ice cream and community kind of came to be for you as a child.
You know, we grew up, I come from very humble beginnings. Let's just say that. We didn't have a lot. And one Sunday after church, I heard the other kids talk about going for ice cream. So of course, naturally, as a 7-8-year-old, you run up to your parents and you say, hey, can we go for ice cream too?
Yes.
And the answer was no. And so the next Sunday, the same thing. And the answer was always no, week after week. Well, that summer, we were driving home from church, and we stopped at a garage sale, because that's where we got our clothes and shoes and whatever else.
That.
And my mom found an old hand crank ice cream maker for $2, and she bought it. And we were so excited. And so we got home, and she's like, okay, go change your clothes and do your chores and meet back here in an hour. We're going to make ice cream.
Nice.
And I was so excited. So we did that, and it kind of became this tradition on Sunday after church that we would go home and make ice cream as a family. Well, other people in our church got wind that we were making homemade ice cream. So all these people started asking if they could come to our house.
Sure.
Right? So one family would bring the milk, one family would bring the cream, somebody else would bring the fruit, or whatever it was.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, we now went from like the least popular family to the most popular family.
Funny how food has that effect.
I know, right? But all of a sudden, I had this instant community that I never had. So as a child, right, you don't think that much about it, but ice cream cone really changed my life.
Yeah. Isn't it
Gave
interesting?
me that sense of community. And it's always stayed with me, right? Because ice cream is this beautiful, classless product, food, that thing that brings people together, that creates memories, moments of clarity and laughter. And it doesn't matter if you're the CFO or you're the janitor, you can afford to take your kids for ice cream and create those memories. So it's always been really part of my soul, kind of growing forward, that ice cream's changed my life twice.
Well, and I think that's part of the appeal. You know, it's so much more than just ice cream for you.
Right.
And I think that's probably what helps you keep going, because the why is what keeps me going when I'm
It's all about
struggling.
those moments of connection.
It is.
Right?
It is.
And I'm very fortunate that our customers feel very close to me.
Yes.
So I get comments and reviews and emails and texts and everything. So I see a lot of that validation and those moments of connectedness. In fact, we just catered the wedding from a guy who worked for us for our first 2 years. He was a scooper. He met his fiance, now his wife, was a customer who came in and he scooped her ice cream cones. And they ended up like
awesome.
going to school and like getting married. Yeah, it's amazing, right? So,
right, you would never have guessed that.
Right, and so things like that happen with us all the time.
Yeah, and it's paying off. 2019 was a huge year for you.
Amazing.
You know, I read in the intro.
I don't even know how to top it, really.
Right. I'm like, so what's next? But before we go to what's next, you know, I read in the intro all about your national awards and Oprah, you know, and Forbes magazine. It's been a huge year.
It has. I'm so grateful. I'm so
yeah,
humbled.
and Tory Burch, you were a part of her program.
Yep.
What was that like?
I'm still in it.
Great.
It's been amazing. So I was a 2019 Tory Burch Fellow, and I was selected to participate in their entrepreneurial program for females across the country, and it's been amazing.
I'm sure you're around some of the most incredible women.
Just talented, smart, amazing women who are totally invested in making us successul. So whatever it is that we need, they are there to help.
Yeah. So what's next?
I have no idea.
Fair enough.
I kind of want to breathe for a little
Yeah.
while, right? And enjoy some of all the good things that have been happening. But we're opening 2 more stores this year. Yes.
Locally?
Yes, locally.
Okay.
So that's very exciting. And we're just going to take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
I want to get the stores open, and I want to really enjoy and have the team enjoy, because with all that has happened this past year, I haven't been around as much as I would like to have been.
Sure.
And so, you know, it's really important to make sure that the foundation, that your house is in order too.
I can relate, yes.
So I'm really looking forward to spending a lot more time with my current team.
I think that's awesome, because as founders, we so often are looking towards what's next and planning and strategizing.
And those things will happen.
Absolutely, but I
Right.
think it's you know, there's a workout called high intensity interval training HIIT, and I think
Right.
a lot of being an entrepreneur is about that. You know, you're all in, crazy intense, but you have to rest, and without it,
And I need to rest.
yes, you and me both. 2020 being
That's
present
right.
and resting.
Right. Yes.
Well, something we like to ask all of our guests, because here at Rise, we live by the quote, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I feel like it really shapes who you are, what you believe is possible. You know, I'd love for you to speak to some of the people that you have surrounded yourself with and how that's shaped your life.
Well, immediately I have to think of Frank Ubel,
Yes,
right?
yes, a very important man.
Yes, he is my universe partner,
Yes.
and partner in everything. But he has taught me the true value and the meaning of real hospitality,
Oh, interesting.
right? And we are in an age of experience, right? We're not just selling a product, we're selling experiences.
Yes.
And being that hospitality is first and foremost, I really surround myself with people who I can learn from. But Frank has really been amazing.
Share a little bit about Frank so people know what you're talking about.
So he's the co-creator and co-founder of Pie Pizzeria, but he's also a serial entrepreneur. He started a really cool apron company with a friend of his called Knife and Flag.
Yeah.
And he started a barber shop with a friend of his, right? So he is a serial entrepreneur, but he is all about hospitality and creating amazing experiences for people, and authentic ones, right?
Right.
So he's been able to help me translate my passion, right, into those experiences, into the Clementine's experience. So he's probably had the most effect on me, because it's always hospitality first and foremost.
And people take for granted how much work that really takes. You know, when
Yes.
you do it beautifully, it looks effortlessly, but
Right.
it takes some work.
Yes, it does.
So I'm glad that you have people like that around you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on our show. I could talk to you all day. We'll just have to find a time for you to come back.
That's right. That's right.
I really appreciate you're a big inspiration for so many of us, so thank you.
My pleasure.